Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Love Beyond the Walls. I am your host, Nicole Ray, and I am so excited to have you guys here with me on today. I'm very excited for my guest who's in the studio already, ready to chat with you guys. But you guys already know the drill. Look, I need you to please like and share the broadcast. I need you to comment during the session. Let us know where you're watching from. And if there's something you hear that really inspires you, give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us something to let us know that you are in tune. I met this woman of God. I guess it's been like maybe a month, 2 months ago now, and she was doing her business, selling her Lord Jesus, what is it? Jewelry. And it was such a beautiful opportunity to meet her and to just engage with her. And she has such a beautiful spirit. So, I had to get her and bring her on the show because I believe she has a marvelous testimony. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Miss Kim Patterson to the stage. Hey, Kim.
Hi, Nicole. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you. And you got that beautiful jewelry already on.
Yes. I try not to leave home without it, right?
Yes. I love jewelry. I just never get to, I'll go nowhere. So,
Gotcha.
I don't get to wear as much as my jewelry as I would like to, but I'm very, very happy to have you here on the show with me today. Can we kick off like this? Can you introduce yourself to the people and tell the people who is Kimberly Patterson?
Wow, who is Kimberly Patterson? Well, I am the eldest of eight. I am originally from Philadelphia and I now reside in Baltimore. I've been in Baltimore for over 20 something years, 23, 24 years.
Okay.
Um, so, trying to think what I am by profession. I am a school librarian, so I'm an educator in Baltimore City Public Schools. Um, I love what I do. And then on the side is how you and I met. I am an independent consultant for Paparazzi Accessories. So my business name is K Beauty for You Boutique, and we sell fabulous fashion accessories. So,
Yes. Love that. Now, what's it like being a librarian in the public school system?
oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. I started out as a first grade teacher when I relocated here to Baltimore. I did 4 years in the classroom, and I was like, no, I still wanted to be with the children. So just being in a library allows me the freedom to be creative while building the children's love for reading. So I get animated, especially with the little ones. I love being animated. Sometimes I might dress up. We go into character and role. So just being able to expose our children to literature, various types of genres, to get them engaged in reading because we know reading can take you far ways.
Absolutely. I know literacy is one of the biggest issues we see with our young Black children and their ability to read, even sometimes with parents. So, when you said you were a librarian, the first thing that came to mind was just the promotion of reading and education and inspiring young people to want to read and to learn to read and to read well. So I think that that's really cool. So tell me, this is your first time on the show. I don't know how familiar with the show you are, but what does it mean to you to live beyond the walls?
Oh, to love beyond the walls. Wow. First of all, that's a very powerful statement. And so when I think of loving beyond the walls, it's beyond that physical aspect of who we are. So sometimes in thinking about my students, right, you have to tap into where they are and meeting them at their needs. And so often we often look at the surface. We often look at what we visually see. But do we go beyond that to learn who the person really is? And so just accepting people for who they are, loving on them, accepting them, and helping them to become better whatever it is that they desire to do. Sometimes we think about it as being the church or the home. Sometimes you got to step outside of those walls and go out into the community and reach those who may not feel loved. And thus, one of the reasons for the jewelry business, building up women's self esteem. Sometimes they may look at themselves and not see the beauty of who they are, but then when they put on a little bit of makeup, because I'm also an independent consultant for Mary Kay. So just giving them a little bit of makeup, a little bit of accessories, just allowing them to feel loved inside and out. So that's when I hear loving beyond the walls. You know,
Very good. Well, I think one of the things that stood out to me about what you said is just the kind of being able to get past what we see on the surface and going a little bit deeper. And then at the same time, with the work you do with, paparazzi or Mary Kay, being able to help them dress up the beauty that's already on the inside of them to make them feel better about how the outside looks. And I think that it is it's a two-way street, right? With learning who you are and coming into yourself and then being able to express yourself well. I think that when you love beyond the walls, part of loving beyond the walls starts with who you are.
mm-hmm.
If you can't really love God or if you can't really love yourself, it becomes terribly hard to be able to love anybody else. So I think that is such an amazing work that you're doing, both as an educator, being a librarian, teaching them to, because one thing I've learned about kids, because I'm a youth pastor at my church, a lot of times they like the way the book looks on the outside because it's
Mm-hmm.
colorful or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They open it up and they're not as interested. And it's like, we don't judge a book by its cover. Sometimes you get those books that are so blah on the outside, and then you open up and it's like, oh my God, this is such a cool book. And I've had that happen as well. So, yeah, I like that. Now, here's what I feel really led to ask you. And because I don't know you that well, I don't know where this is going to take us. But I just feel like the Spirit saying to ask you to tell her testimony. So, would you be willing to talk to us and give us your testimony? How did you get to the place of walking with God and just learning to love beyond the walls for yourself?
Wow. That I am still unpacking. So where I am now, loving myself. I'm at a place right now where, and I don't know if it's coming with age. As you get older, you get wiser. But I didn't always love myself. Um, I struggled with self-image at one point. Um, yeah, just and not being always accepted. And so I think that's even more of a reason why I do the work that I do, um, is to let others know that it's okay. It's okay sometimes to be different. It's okay sometimes to look different. It's okay sometimes not to have the latest fashion or the latest styles, right? Um, but still being who God designed you to be. And each day, each month, each year, I am learning and growing more closer to God. He has done so many amazing things that like has blown my mind. Like I'm just like, oh God, you really do love me. You really do have your hands on me, even when I don't think that he loves me or he has his hands on me. He'll send me a little reminder, whether it's through the word or through platforms like this, that you got it. You are capable. You are beautiful. You are loved. You are my daughter. You are who I have created you to be. Um, yeah, all my life I've I've loved God, and it's just the love is just getting deeper and deeper as I become wiser and wiser, and just seeing how he is, like through worship, through talking to various people. Um, God is just showing himself and who he is in my life and using me. That's always like a prayer of mine, is that he would use me as a vessel to be a light for someone else that I encounter on my path, whether it's to work, from work, or throughout the day. Just allow me to be a beacon of light for those that I encounter. So,
That's wonderful. I mean, I think if I'm being honest, I don't really know many women who haven't at some point experienced like that rejection or abandonment issue. And it's like I wonder why sometimes the enemy feels like that's what he needs to do to really attack us. Um, but okay, so now that I'm sitting here, we're talking about it. I feel like it's because um, the Bible talks about how the when the serpent deceived Eve, and it talks
mm,
about it said that the seed of the woman would crush the head of the enemy. And so
mm,
the truth of the matter is that women have power and we have authority in Jesus Christ. And the one thing that I feel like diminishes that power for us is when we feel rejected or abandoned. Because something I've done and I've heard other women say that they do this too is like when we feel rejected, we feel abandoned, or we feel undervalued, we get quiet. We
mhm.
start keeping to ourselves and we don't say nothing, and you know, we call it minding our business, but we be knowing stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like we have
Yeah.
women's intuition, we got wisdom, and we know what we know, but we will just keep our mouth shut, even if we know we need to speak, because we are afraid of that rejection of like saying the thing and the thing not being received. And so, because we've been so rejected, it's just easier to keep our mouth shut.
Mhm.
But what I feel God just speaking to us right now is we gotta speak. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like that's a wall that so many women are facing. We have to speak up. Yes, there's the Esther season where there's the time to be silent, but there's also a time for us to rise up and speak. I'm just so grateful to have you here now to, even though you feel like you're still in your journey, that you'll be like, but I'm going to speak. Because I think that there's power in speaking, even when you're in the middle of it. A lot of times people want to wait till they get to the end of the thing to talk about it. And it's like, yo, look, I'm in the middle of this right now.
Right. 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 Yeah.
But while I'm in the mess, God's keeping me. And I'm gonna talk about it now. I'm not gonna wait till I get to
Right.
the end.
Right.
You know,
It's funny that you said that because I like to that introvert, right? And so I'm okay with not speaking. I'm okay with being on a sideline. But as you said, there is a time where God needs us to use our voice to speak because through our testimony, right, and through our trials, our tribulations, it's not just for, and this is something that I'm learning now, it's not just for Kim, right? It's for that person, because I've asked God to use me as a light that he's going to send through my path, that I'm going to have to share my testimony. I'm going to have to share the battles, the scars, and how God picked me up and he dusted me off and said, daughter, I need you to go this way, um yeah, the world can be very cruel, but in the end, we have purpose, and God has created and destined us for such a time as this, or for such a time as later. We have a purpose, and we need to avail ourselves to Him to be used by Him. And if that means using our voice, then we need to use our voice. And something where I am now is just being more in tune to the voice of God and separating my thoughts, you know, from what God is truly saying for me to say at that time. So,
yes, that is so critically important. So, on that point, I want to ask you: How have you learned to discern your voice from God's voice?
So through
All right, now that we've got that little technical difficulty taken out, um, yes. So you were just getting ready to just explain to us how people can discern the voice of God, how you do it, and how we might be able to learn from what you do.
Right. And so I had to laugh when, life is life. But where I am now, in my discernment and being able to hear from God is there's a still small voice, literally, whether it's through meditation, like if I'm in the bathroom is my place, if I'm not being too transparent, but where I meditate. And so I'm having a conversation with God, just like how you and I are having this conversation. And whether it's through a song later on that day, whether it's through his actual word, um, through a sermon that either my pastor, Bishop Johnson, or Elder Michelle Johnson, or whoever at that moment is pouring into me, it'll be a confirmation of something that I had that conversation with God about. And so, revelation after revelation, it could be on a billboard as I'm driving home, and or like I said, a song that'll let me know whatever that conversation was that I had with God, this is how he has responded back to me. Something so simple but yet so powerful is that God's voice can come through anyway, through a commercial. You could be watching a commercial and it's like, oh, and something, a revelation will come through a commercial. It could be a conversation, how you and I are sitting here talking, and someone will say something that confirms that thing that you and God were talking about. And so I would say, first and foremost, is to have a relationship with God and be intimate with him and let him know, like, he already knows what we're thinking. He already knows what we're going to say, so just be real, just be transparent, and allow God to be God in your life, and he'll come through. I always say, sometimes I'm like, God, I'm that daughter that needs the thunderbolts and the fireworks and all of that, to know that that's him. And so his through his word, for me, is what is usually the confirmation. So
Man, that's so good. And I think when you just said about how people need to talk to him and he already knows what you're going to say, I feel like sometimes people will feel like, oh, well, God already knows what I need, or God already knows what I want, or He already knows what I'm going to say. So why do I even need to say it? And it's like, I always look at my relationship with God as like a parent and a child, right? When you
mhm,
have children, nieces, nephews, but if you've ever raised children, you will know how they might respond to something. You might know what they're going to want before they even ask you for it. You might know what they're going to need. But if they don't ask, you might not be just running the, bite at the bit to get it. Like I may know my daughter wants Chick fil A. I may even be willing to go to Chick fil A, but I might
mhm,
not offer Chick fil A. I might not just bring it home, but if she brings it up, I might be like, I knew you wanted Chick fil A. I'll take her. So we have to be willing to talk to God at all times and all things, regardless of whether or not He already knows. I think, when we talk about the fact that He already knows what we're going to say, it's that we can say whatever we need to say to God, and God
mhm,
is not going to throw us away because we said it.
right.
Um, I always tell people be respectful when you talk to God because He's still God. But you
Mhm,
can really say what you need to say to God about anything,
right.
anything that you're feeling, anything that you're going through. We can talk to God about, and I think that that's so beautiful. Just when we talk about discerning, like relationship is at the heart of discernment. I was actually just telling one of my youngins this earlier today. I said I've heard the biggest difference between somebody who kind of gets schizophrenic episodes and a prophet is that one listens to the voice of God and the other one listens to the other voices. And I was basically letting her know, like, there's only two sides. Like,
Right.
the world would try to make us think that you could be somewhere in between where you don't choose God, but you don't choose the devil, and you're just walking in between. And I'm like, no, there's God and there's the devil. And God gives us these gifts. He gives us the ability to discern. He gives us the ability to dream dreams and see visions and all of that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
If you let the devil have access to it, he will make you go out your mind.
Right. And in the word it tells us like God doesn't want us to be lukewarm. It's
Mhm.
either one or the other. It's like you said, there's no straddling. We're either going to be cold or we're going to be hot. But no, the lukewarm. And it was something that you had said. It reminded me of my grandfather. And so when we were younger, my grandfather used to say, ask for what you want and not what you need, because if you ask for what you want, your need is going to be met. And so, just that always sticks with me. Like, okay, I may not get what I want, but I'm still going to ask what I want, So, yeah,
Well, the
don't be
Bible
afraid.
tells us we could do that, doesn't it? If you
Hmm.
ask anything in my name according to my will, it will be done. So
It
we
would
can
be
do what we want. You know, I used to say, because I've had people look at me and they'll be like, "Oh, Nicole, you've already achieved enough success. Like, why do you need more? Like, why do you always looking for more?" Because God said life and
mm,
life more abundantly. So yes, I have a great life. Yes, I already have such wonderful things, and yes, I'm blessed. And if God didn't do anything else, I'm good with everything I have. However, if my father is rich in houses and land, I'm gonna ask my dad for it. Like,
mhm.
why wouldn't I ask my dad for it? But I think, right, when we go back to that conversation, we started with that rejection and that abandonment,
Right.
those types of things, that manipulation from the enemy would cause us to think, I'm not going to ask God for what I want because he might say no. Or,
Right.
you know what, I've done so much bad things, or I've said this, or I did this. God's not going to give it to me. He's just going to leave me. And that's not even biblical. But those are the
Right.
walls that we're trying to learn how to love
Mhm.
beyond and understand that, look, God knows we've been rejected.
Right.
God's not trying to reject us. We the ones rejecting it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's just something, that I really think about a lot, is how do we get to the place where we stop putting our own preconceived notions on God?
And it was something that you said that reminded me, like, that was the whole purpose of Jesus, right? And his coming back as human, because he was part of the Trinity. So, but when he came back and he gave up his life for us, that was to cover our multitude of sins. So, yes, we fall down, right? But we get back up. And a sinner is just a saint who fell down, right?
Mhm.
If I got the lyrics correct. And so, like, God loves us no matter what. He knows when we're going to mess up. He knows when we're going to do right. He knows when we're going to stray. He knows it all. So it's just us falling in line and learning to love ourselves and give ourselves some grace,
Mhm.
when we mess up. But the thing is not to keep messing up, you
Mhm.
know,
Yep.
because we don't want that grace card to run out.
Right. Well, praise God, it can never run out, but I still don't believe in abusing his grace. Um, you know, I don't believe in that. I have a question for you. So,
Mhm.
we talked a little bit earlier about, how you use the beauty and things like that, the jewelry and the makeup to kind of help women. What made you want to get into that area? Because education and then beauty and skincare is like two like
Yeah.
polar opposites.
So it started with just me wanting to care for my skin even more so. And so growing up, and I might be dating myself, the Noxzema girl. And
Okay.
so, doing Noxzema, but if we know how Noxzema is, it eventually dries your pores out. It dries your skin out. And so just trying to find a healthy regimen for cleaning my face. And so a friend of mine was an independent consultant, and she introduced me to Mary Kay. And she was like, "Oh, try this product." And I just loved how it wasn't dry, it wasn't harsh, and it made my skin feel good. And then using just various products through the skincare line. And so I was like, okay. And one of the things that the our the person above us, as she was training us, she taught us that our face is like a windshield. And so if you think about a windshield, you think about all the elements of outside that comes on the windshield. That's the same thing. And so making sure that we care for our skin, and in doing that, it just makes you feel good. um, I've never been a person that was heavy in makeup unless I'm like really really going out, but just the subtle it's called CC cream to cover and protect my face, and just a little bit of lip gloss, and just call it a day. Yeah, I'm not into the whole beating of the face as they say, but just just skincare period is something that's important. And so when I meet women, or talking to various women, and they may have some issues with their skin, I'll say, well, how about trying this? And so we'll go through it that way.
All right, well, your skin is beautiful. I can tell that even through the camera.
Thank
Um,
you.
and even for those who do the beat face, skincare is the baseline for a beat. So, making sure that your skin is primed and prepped and clean and all that kind of stuff, that is the baseline for a beauty regimen with makeup,
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. But I like to do both. I like to do the natural, and then I also like to throw on a little razzle dazzle every once in a while when I'm getting ready to go out. So, what made you get into the jewelry area?
So the jewelry business, that came during the pandemic. Um, my cousin, who was a consultant at the time, I was just talking to her about student loans, and just, trying to figure out how I'm going to pay the mortgage, how I'm going to pay student loans, how I'm going to pay car note, how I'm going to pay car insurance. And she was like, well, I'm in this multi-level marketing. And, she started explaining what paparazzi was. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that, because I was already doing the Mary Kay. I just didn't want another platform that way. And she was like, okay. And so she waited a couple of months, and I think I was talking about student loans again. And she was like, hey, I have this opportunity, and I kind of dismissed it again. And then, as I said, the pandemic came, and we were having that conversation again. And I said, what do I have to lose? Right. And so I said, all I can do is sign up. I signed up, I tried it, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the products, um, because I just like accessories, period. And so just the whole paparazzi fam, I call it a family now, but it gave me a sense of sisterhood. My base line is in Atlanta. And so even though they're in Atlanta and I'm in Baltimore, it's like we are still in the same vicinity. And so, um, yeah, just the pandemic. And it was just something to do during the pandemic. And it, it literally took off. I have 7 team members. 3 are active members, and it. I'm just trying to put it all in words. It's different. It's very different. And why not look good, right, while making the money on the side? So
Mhm.
yeah, and so
How
that's
would,
it.
how would you say that, moving into those entrepreneurial endeavors helps you with, overcoming the feelings of rejection or abandonment or anything like that? Because I also am an entrepreneur. One thing that I know that it is not for the faint of heart.
No.
You actually experience a lot of rejection as
Mhm.
an entrepreneur, with customers coming up to the table and then walking away, or you go, you do the beauty, parties, the different things, and then people don't want like so. So how has that experience been while you've been overcoming your walls?
And so for me, it's given me an opportunity to step out of my shell. It's allowing me going back to using my voice, and just sharing the opportunity, just sharing whether it's a pair of earrings, like, hey, Nicole, these yellow earrings would look really great on you today. And just starting up that dialogue about it. And then the conversation will naturally develop. I know with paparazzi, one of our ways, there's 99 ways they say to work the business, and so one of the ways of working the business is through Facebook Live. And so doing Facebook Live has given me confidence. It has helped me to reach women and men that I probably would never have come in contact with. And so, in some of those relationships that I have forged as customers, they are now like friends. One of my customers recently lost a family member, and so just me showing up, and she was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like she didn't think that I would be there, but you know, like even though I'm your jury lady, right? I genuinely care about you and what you go through. So,
Yep, it's a beautiful way to mix like ministry with, you know, business and entrepreneurship, right? Because um, at the end of the day, God has called us to care for people.
right.
And yeah, we've got to make money. We've got to sell products. We've got to do all of that. But, I think caring for our customer base is the thing that sets people apart. Because I've been to many a paparazzi. Okay, know several people who do paparazzi. Then none of them show up for me like that. And so I love the way that you have made like you've taken your business and you said, this is not just a business for me. Like, I care about my customers and I care about the people that I'm interacting with. And I also think that the foundation and reason why you're doing it and kind of just that desire to help women see their beauty and their worth and be able to kind of, um, like we said earlier, dress up beauty that's already on the inside of them. I think that that really sets you apart. So, you know, being an educator and then also being someone who empowers women and believes in women growing and developing and becoming who they are, right?
Mhm.
Why do you think that it's important for us to go ahead and tackle our walls?
Mm. Because we are beautifully and wonderfully made. We are all from the Creator, right? And so, why not love on ourselves, right? Why not embrace who God has made us, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all different, but yet we're all the same, meaning our outside being looks different, our outside wall looks different, but if we come inside the walls, right, we all have a heart, we all have feelings, we all have veins and blood that flows through our body, right? So why not love on one another and look past differences. So,
That's so good. Um, what I hear when I hear you say that is we have to give grace. We have to be being a part of tearing down those walls is giving ourselves grace to be
mhm,
human,
right,
but also being able to give others grace to be human. And just knowing that, like, there's so much more that God desires for us than for us to be broken. I say this saying all the time, like, Jesus did not come to the earth to be beaten, bruised, mocked, crucified, just to die, go to hell, snatch the keys, ascend to heaven, or be raised from the dead, then ascend to heaven. He didn't do all that for you to keep walking around broke, busted, and disgusted.
right,
Can't, can't never experience joy. Can never
right,
experience peace. Can never experience love. And so I also say love is a choice. It's not an emotion. And I don't think that enough people understand that we have to choose love because we're not always going to feel like it. And I would say, um, I think my marriage taught me that the most because with my children, it's easy to love them because it's like I birthed them, like those are my babies. Like even when they get on my nerves, like nothing in me says I don't want to love you. But when you're talking about like a spouse or something like that, like there are things in you that will make you believe that you don't love that person.
you know, your everlasting nerve.
Have a real conversation
Right,
because it's a perception that takes place that makes us feel like we don't actually love the person when deep down we really do love the person. We just aren't able to tolerate their current actions, or we may not like what they're doing. But when I don't like how they're behaving, or I don't like how they're treating me, and even in the situations where they're mentally, physically, or emotionally abusive, like somewhere in my heart, I love them, but I don't like what they're doing. And so, yes, I have to set the boundary
right,
to
right.
say that I'm not going to stay in this, and I'm not going to continue to allow myself to suffer through this. But I don't have to be in a place where I'm not loving. I can still love you, but I'm gonna love you from a
Love you
distance.
from afar, right? Right. And so in loving from afar, right, it doesn't mean that you don't love them. It's just that you love you more,
Mm,
right? You love you so much more that you see your value. They may not see your value because then if they saw the value, then they wouldn't treat you the way that they would treat you. They would love you as Christ loved the church, right?
mm,
And so they would treat you as Christ treats everybody. And so it goes back to that loving yourself and,
yep.
and understanding who you are and valuing who you are and learning that you deserve more. And so in having this conversation is just making me think of the reason why I had relocated to Baltimore, you know. And if I can just be in all transparency, I was engaged, and so we were in the planning phase of the wedding, and the the road started going left, and it was just so many signs that I saw that it was like, no, this is not it, you know. And so um I needed to leave Philadelphia, you know, because I just had to get out of that space
Mm-hmm.
and to protect myself. And it's one decision that I am forever grateful for. I know when I was in the planning process of relocating, and I remember having a conversation with my mom, and I was like, yeah, I said, I gotta go. And she was like, go where? You know, I said, it's two places. It's either Charlotte or Baltimore. And she was like, well, she didn't want me to leave, period. And so I was like, well, Baltimore is closer. I do have family in Charlotte, but you know, the job offer came, and so I came to Baltimore. And I can truly say, like, this is where I learned to love me. I always think of it as a butterfly, and one of the reasons why I have the mentoring group, EQ Black Butterflies, is that it was like a whole metamorphosis. And so, starting out like Philadelphia, I was at Caterpillar, but then my transition from Philadelphia to Baltimore, I was in a chrysalis. And I can say 20 something years later that I have now become a butterfly in that aspect, but yet and still, I'm still going through various processes, whether it's growing in Christ, or just even in my profession. And, stay tuned because God is working on a new endeavor. So I'm currently in class now, um, for the the vision, or I'm not even going to say the vision. It was something that I asked God for, and I started the process in 2017, and it wasn't going anywhere, and so I put the binder to the side, and then this opportunity afforded itself maybe 2 months ago. Um, but classes just started. And so I'm in this cohort that is going to launch me to the promise that he made to me in 2017. So that the saying of delay is not a denial, right? And so this is, yeah. So that still small voice that I was talking about, yeah. It was like, this is how I want you to do it, daughter. Even though I gave you the vision in 2017, and when I say the vision, it was like I was in the kitchen and the business name was coming, and the logo and everything, it was just like dropping, and I was like, I had notebooks and pieces of paper just writing stuff down, and then it came to a complete stop, and I was just like, oh, okay, like, what's happening? But you said, and you gave me, right? And so I never let the dream go. I always spoke of the dream. And then, like, even some of my girlfriends, they'll say, well, Kim, you said, and why are you not acting on it? And I'm just like, I don't know. But he has now opened the doors, and he has provided me um, a great opportunity to, yeah. So I'm
I love
excited.
that for you. I'm very excited, and I can't wait till you get to the end of the thing so that you can reveal what that thing is. And when you do, you have to come back and talk to us about that whole
Yeah.
experience. Because one thing I always say is that when you're in the economy of God, nothing is wasted. You know, that scripture that says he works all things out together for the good of those who love him and are
Mhm.
called in Christ Jesus. Like, he literally works everything out together, and he may give you an idea, he may give you a spark, he may, you may have a lot, you may have the momentum, and then he'll put you on pause. And that was something that I had to learn because I hated the pause button. Like, what are we doing? Like,
Mhm.
I'm here. I did this. I'm ready to go. Like,
Right.
or I've launched something and then I pulled it back or whatever. Just, but, but, but sometimes, that delay just can be so life changing. You don't know what experiences, even Love Beyond the Walls. Love Beyond the Walls, God gave this to me in 2019.
Okay.
And I started at the beginning of January 2019. I did the show for about a year. I was an actual radio station. It was live on like internet radio. I'm streaming it on my Facebook page, right? It was a nice production. When I was doing it then, I had the whole mixing board and everything. We were doing music. Like, it was like a formal studio, right? And it was great. It was amazing. And I believe that it was what it needed to be in the moment for what God wanted it to be in the moment. But as I came out of that, I had so many things that I wanted to do with it. I was like, oh yeah, okay. It can be this, it can be that, it can be this. I got a trademark, so Love Beyond the Walls is an official trademark. And then I've met a roadblock, and that
Mhm.
roadblock like crippled me in a way where I kind of put it down, and I wasn't even gonna have to pick it back up. I was like, I'm done with it. Like, you know, the person who's fighting you on the trademark, they can have Love Beyond the Walls. I don't even want it. Like, and here we go. That guy double back. He was like, "Yeah, remember that thing? This is what you're gonna do. You're pick it back up." I
Mm-hmm.
said, so. This is how you're gonna work it when you pick it back up. And in between time, I learned so much about technology. I didn't need a studio. I was paying 100 some odd dollars a month. I didn't need a studio.
Right.
Baby, my house is free. Okay.
Right. Right.
I invested in my computer, of course. I paid the Wi-Fi. I invested in the tool to be able to have, host the show, but nowhere near the amount that I was paying. You know what I'm saying?
And
Yeah.
it's something that you said, like you felt down and out, right? And in this season that I'm in January, our church, like, we had to do like a vision board, a prayer board. And so on my board, in big bling letters, I said, trust the process. And so, and you talking about that that roadblock that you hit was just part of the process. Like, God knew that that was going to happen. You didn't know, but God knew that that was going to happen. But He already had the plan in place for when you came over, thinking of that speed bump, when you came over that speed bump, this is what you're going to use now to catapult the vision that I originally, because that's the key thing. When God gives you a vision, He's going to give you provision,
Hey,
right?
that's my thing.
Right? He's going to give you that provision. And so sometimes it may be a plug, right, in that provision. But when He takes that plug off, right, it's just going to keep going. And as long as God is in it, is going to manifest and overflow and go according to His will and His way. So,
That is literally my favorite saying. I always tell people, God always makes provision for the vision. And you know what? Um, as hard as it is, we have to always keep in mind what what the book says in Habakkuk 2, that even though the vision tarries, because
yeah.
we love to quote the part that says, "Write the vision and make it plain."
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They'll say, "Write the vision and make it plain that he who sees it may run with it." But
Right.
then they leave out the part that says, "Though it tarries,
Right.
wait on it."
Wait on it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because
Yes.
I think I've said this, I might have shared this before, but I remember in like 2017, I was at a retreat for my church and we were singing, we were in worship, we were singing. The woman of God who was leading worship, she started singing the Juanita Bynum song, "I Don't Mind Waiting."
Mm.
Everybody's in this and they're singing and I'm singing and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "I don't mind waiting." Like I'm in it. And then I was like, wait a minute. But I do mind very much waiting. And I
Mm-hmm.
sat down because I had to sit with my thoughts like, yeah, we in here singing, "I don't mind waiting." But if I'm gonna be really honest with you, and again, to what we were talking about God already knows, and just
Mm-hmm.
say, God, I honestly really do mind waiting.
Right.
And He had to take me on a process to teach me how to wait well. And if I'm being honest, I only really came to the culmination of learning how to wait well this year.
Mm.
And that was almost that 8 years ago.
Right.
Where I had that initial conversation to say, "I don't mind waiting." And then I've tried to wait in between, but
Right.
I just came into the real understanding of what "I don't mind waiting" is. Just honestly, I can look at my notebook. It probably was like 2 months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, if I'm being really honest, because you know, process
Mm.
equals waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. It
You
does.
you don't get to the end.
Right.
There's some things God lets be cookie cutter boom. But
Right.
when God gives you big vision for big things, it
Right.
takes time to develop. And that's why He also says, "Don't despise small beginnings."
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And it just makes me think. So for those that don't know, I'm a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan, right?
Okay.
I,
Okay.
I love my Eagles. I love my birds. And
Uh-huh.
so just thinking about like last year and, the whole process that they went through, right? And in that process, it led them to the national championship. It led them to the Super Bowl. Did they waver? Probably, here and there. But there was one thing, and I'm not sure if it was Jalen or Saquon who said it, is that they always looked at each game as just that game. They didn't look at if there was a game on this Sunday, they didn't look at the game in October. They focused on that one game. So, in saying that, like if we focus just on the one thing that we're working on at this time, and allow God to be God, that when we take that next step, He's going to meet us there. So, thinking about how a toddler walks, right? They take one step at a time, knowing that their mom or somebody's going to be there to catch them when they fall. But it's part of the process that they go through in order to get to those bigger steps. So,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
yeah,
I think that that's so good to focus on the one thing, because what does the Bible say? It says, don't worry about tomorrow.
don't worry about tomorrow because tomorrow has its own worries. Mm-hmm.
It's gonna worry about itself, and I think it says plentiful, or I forget the exact verse, but it says that there's enough sorrow in tomorrow
Right,
that you ain't got to worry about it
right,
today. Worry about what's going on today, and I always say, tell people, it doesn't mean you can't make future plans or that you shouldn't
exactly.
have
Right,
vision, but at the moment you have to worry about what's right in front of you.
right,
Because if
right,
you living all the way 2029 and you're a millionaire, but right now you're a thousandaire, honey,
right,
you're not living.
right,
You're not
right,
living in reality.
right. And so putting those things into place, because if the millionaire, right, is the goal, what are you putting in place to get to that?
Mm,
So you gotta put in the work that you talked about. You gotta put in the work. You gotta have that drive. And thinking about being an entrepreneur, like it's not easy, right? There's plenty of days where I'm just like, I'm done, and I put it to the side. But yet and still, like if this is what you want to do, you have to do it wholeheartedly. You have to take it with the good, the bad, the indifferent, the ugly, and just do it. Just do
yeah.
it.
Yeah, you know what you just said made me think about putting it down or just having to press through with entrepreneurship. It made me think about, I don't know if you've heard recently about Tabitha Brown and what she said, the message she gave to some people who are entrepreneurs. Did you
No,
hear it?
and I like Tabitha Brown. No, what this?
So the woman of God, she told people, some of y'all need to go get a job. And she wasn't wrong, but that rejection hit a lot of people like a ton of bricks,
Mm-hmm.
because entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart, but also entrepreneurship is not, it's not something that everybody can just do and just live off of just being an entrepreneur,
Right.
especially when you're a new entrepreneur. Because what I've learned over, I've been in entrepreneurship now for 15 plus years. When you're an entrepreneur, you need investment. If you don't got no seed, you won't have a harvest.
Mm.
You know it when you started paparazzi or Mary Kay. Like sometimes you gotta buy your products to
Right.
sell your products.
Right.
They're not just handing you merchandise and they're
Right.
like, here's a bunch of merchandise, $2,000, $3,000 worth of merchandise. Pay us back if you get it. No,
Mm-hmm.
you have to buy what it is you want to sell. Same thing in every area of entrepreneurship, whether it's intellectual property, whatever it is that it is, you have to be able to sow seeds. So when she was telling these people to just go ahead and get themselves a job, these people was upset. You hear what I'm saying?
I like Taylor. Like and that's one thing about it. Like she'll keep it real. She don't have no punches. She straight, no chaser. So yeah.
Auntie Tab had them upset. But I was even thinking, like, when you said, sometimes I put it down in my mind, I was thinking, and you have a job, so you can't put it down.
Right.
If
Right.
it was your livelihood, there's no putting it down.
There's no putting it down. And so and that's good that you said that, because the vision that I'm working on now, right? And in the class, like some of the things that they are presenting to us, like I'm literally sitting there like, like you know what you get ready to sign up for. Like you really about to do this. And that means that that cushion is not going to be there. So what are you going to have in place, right, to make sure that when you fall soft and not hitting and hurting yourself, you know? So is definitely um it's definitely like for the faint of heart, and in that planning and putting things in place is something that's crucial to any successful business. So
It's when you fall, because you're gonna fall.
you want to fall, right?
You
That's
don't
that
have
inevitable.
you're gonna fall, but you can fall soft or you can fall hard. And I think that that's a word even right there, because a lot of people don't try because they're afraid of falling. But
Right.
it's like falling don't mean breaking. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Falling doesn't always mean breaking. Falling doesn't always mean broken and hurting. But you can fall gracefully, and that'll just be what it is.
Right.
Oh man, this has been such a great conversation.
Yes, it was rich. It was
I,
great.
I really, really enjoy having you here. I want to give you a chance to give any closing remarks or that you would want to leave with the people about how they could love beyond the walls, about how they could just um, overcome and just be who God called them to be. And then I also want you to tell them how they can follow you, connect with you, maybe get some of the jewelry and everything.
So, what I would say about loving beyond the wall as it relates to you as a person is to first develop a relationship with God. That's going to be the key to helping you even on your darkest days. When you have that relationship with God, that you would learn to love who you are and whose you are, right? Because we all are a child of God. And so just having that relationship with God, and in doing that, you will begin to develop a love for yourself as well as a love for others. Um, and then, as far as following me, I am on Facebook right now as myself, Kimberly Patterson. I am on Instagram as K Beauty underscore for you. And I am on TikTok as Kimberly Patterson 96. And then to get the beautiful accessories, you can go to paparazziaccessories.com / K Beauty. So that's KAY, the word beauty, the number 4, and the letter U. And so, yeah, that's it.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Well, I thank you so much for being here, and for joining me on today. I'm gonna go ahead and close this out, but I can't wait to talk to you after this is over.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This was definitely, um, it was good.
Amen.
I came a little bit more out of my introverted self. Yes.
Good job. All right.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in today. I hope that you enjoyed this show, that you took something away from it. Be empowered, be lifted up. And listen, I need you to like, subscribe, share, tell somebody to tell somebody. We're going to be back again next Saturday. And I'm very much looking forward to introducing you to my next guest. I love y'all and have a good day. Bye.